Hi there, this is Mrs. Kiyoko with your flipped math lesson for today, 4-2. Today's objective is I can estimate a quotient. Let's talk about this objective really quickly. So we know that when we estimate something, that we are finding about how much something is, and we use two different strategies to do that. One of the strategies is to round numbers. Another strategy is to use compatible numbers. So we're going to be using those strategies today as we estimate a quotient. Let's talk about that word quotient next. A quotient is an answer to a division problem. So we know that a product, we've heard that word before, a product is an answer to a multiplication problem. Well, answers to division problem have a special word too, and that word is quotient. So it's a word that you're going to be expected to know from now on. I have a couple of practice problems down here. So I have 70 divided by 10 equals 7. The 7 is the quotient. Okay. Then down at the bottom, I have 108 divided by 2 is 54. The 54 is the quotient. So today we're going to be finding quotients to division problems by using estimation. So here's our practice problem. Jorge is putting shells into 6 boxes. He wants to put the same amount of shells in each box. If there are 258 shells, about how many shells can Jorge put into each box? So first I need to find out what the problem is asking us to do. Well, I need to find out about how many shells can Jorge put into each box if he's putting about the same amount in each box. The important information that I need to find, numbers that I need to find, is that he has 258 shells and he's putting them into 6 boxes. Okay, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to make my equation. 258 divided by 6. Now remember it said about how many would be in each box. So that word about is my clue that I'm going to use, estimation. That doesn't want to work for me. There we go. I need to use estimation. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use rounding to estimate 258 divided by 6. Okay, so I'm going to round 258 and I'm going to round it to the nearest hundredths place. So I've got my 5 here. It's a bossy neighbor. It's going to tell the 2 to go up. Remember, 5 or above, give it a shove. So that changes 258 to 300. So now I have 300 divided by 6, okay, which is a much easier problem. I'm going to use the same strategy I learned yesterday to divide that. So I'm going to start with 3 divided by 6. Well, I can't really divide 3 by 6, so let's put a 0 on there. 30 divided by 6. Oh, I know 30 divided by 6 is 5. 5 times 6 is 30. And then I annex the 0 and tack that on. So 300 divided by 6 equals 50. So there's going to be about 50 shells in each box. Okay? So I can use that strategy, or I can use compatible numbers. Okay? So that one was rounding. This time I'm going to use compatible numbers, which means I'm not really rounding to nearest place. I'm just going to change that number to a number that's close to 258, but isn't necessarily be rounded. Okay? Now, there's something I need to keep in mind. While I'm doing this, while I'm finding a compatible number, I have to think about what I'm dividing that number by. I'm dividing it by 6. So I need to think about my multiples of 6 in order to find a good compatible number. The multiples of 6 are 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, and so on. I just keep thinking about those multiples of 6. So the next one would be 24, then 30, 36, and so on. So this is something you could do mentally if you know your 6's. If you don't know your 6's, you might have to write those things down. Okay, so now that I have that mentally in my head, thinking about the multiples of 6, now I'm going to round 258 to a number that's easily divided by 6. That needs to be a multiple of 6. So I changed it to 240. And the reason I did that is because 24 can be easily divided by 6. 6 times 4 is 24, right? 6 times 4 equals 24. So I could divide 24 by 6, and that's going to equal 4. Then I tack on a 0, and I get the answer 40. Okay, now for my first one, when I rounded 300 divided by 6, I got 50. Now my answer is 40. That's a little bit of a big difference, but when I consider that I started off with the number 258, that's not that big of a deal. Okay, so there's two ways to do this today. You can either round or you can find a compatible number. Whichever makes the most sense as you're doing it, that's the one you would choose. So let's practice. We're going to estimate each quotient. So the first number is 312 divided by 5. So I'm going to use some rounding because I know everything that divided by 5 ends with 5 or a 0. So I'm going to round that down to 300. I can do that because the bossy neighbor tells that 3 to stay the same. Now I've got 300 divided by 5. Okay, so I'm going to underline the numbers that are not 0. I'm going to try 3 divided by 5. I can't do, so I'm going to add one more 0. 30 divided by 5 is 6. Then I tack on a 0, and I get 60. Okay, so 312 divided by 5 is about 60. Okay, not so hard, right? Number 2, or the next one. 792 divided by 4. I'm going to round that up to the nearest hundred, and that gives me 800 divided by 4. Okay, because 792 is very close to 800. And 8 can be divided by 4. There's my fact family there. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And I tack on my 2 zeros. And I get 200. So 792 divided by 4 is about 200. Next one, 834 divided by 2. I'm going to round that to the nearest hundreds place, see if that's a good number for me to use. And I get 800 divided by 2. Okay, I underline the numbers that are not 0 first to find that fact family. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and then I tack on the 2 zeros, and I get 400. So 834 divided by 2 is about 400. Let's try another one. 586 divided by 5. Going to round that number up to 586. I'm going to round that up to about 600 and have that divided by 5. Underline the numbers that aren't 0 first. 6 divided by 5. Ooh, don't know that. Let's try 60 divided by 5. Ooh, I know 60 divided by 5 is 12. And then tack on a 0, and I get 120. Okay? So now you try a few. Remember, you can use estimation or compatible numbers. Your answers may be different than mine, but if they're close, that's all right. So our first one, 419 divided by 7. Remember, you need to think about your multiples of 7. You give it a try, pause the video, and then I'll tell you the answer. Okay, so I'm thinking about my multiples of 7. They are 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42. Aha, 42 would be a good number. See, I see 41 up here, 419. That is awfully close to 420, which starts with 42. I can do 420 divided by 7, so I'm going to use that compatible number. 420 divided by 7. 42 divided by 7 is 6. 6 times 7 is 42. And then tack on the 0, and I get 60. Okay? Let's try another one. Number 2, 635 divided by 8. Don't forget to think about your multiples of 8. Okay, so I wrote down all the multiples of 8, and I know that I need to have a multiple that's going to be close to 635, and it's going to be close to that 63 right there. So I see 64. 635 is really close to 640, so I'm going to use that as my compatible number. 64 divided by 8 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Tack on a 0, and I get 80. Okay? Number 3. 287 divided by 2. I'm going to go ahead and round 287 to 300. I can do that because that bossy 8 tells the 2 to go up, and then do that divided by 2. Now, I'm not sure about 3 divided by 2, but I know 30 divided by 2 is 15. Then I tack on a 0, and I get 150. So about 150 is my answer. Number 4, 975 divided by 5. Okay, 975 is very close to 1,000. I know that because I rounded up. And I can do 1,000 divided by 5 very easily because I see that 10 divided by 5 right there. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And then I tack on my 2 zeros and I get about 200. Number 5, 359 divided by 6. Okay, so once again, I'm going to think about my multiples of 6. They are 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. Oh, I can stop right there because 36 is very close to 35. So 359, I'm going to use the compatible number 360 and divide that by 6. 36 divided by 6 is 6. I know this because 6 times 6 is 36. I tack on that 0, and then I get 60. So 359 divided by 6 is about 60. Okay? Let's try a story problem. This will be our last one. 7 friends collected coats for a clothing drive. They gathered 61 coats. If each person had about the same number of coats, how many did each person collect? So I have to find out about how many did each person collect, and I'm going to use the important number 61 and 7 friends. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make that equation and then figure out the problem. Okay, so I wrote the equation 61 divided by 7, and I need to change 61 to a compatible number or round it, and I'm going to think about the multiples of 7 while I do that. So I've got 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 54, 56. Now I got lost. Oh, 63. Aha, there we go. 63. 9 times 7 is 63. So I'm going to change that to 63 divided by 7, and that equals 9. So about 9 coats per person would be my answer. Okay? All right. That's it for today, guys. We are finished. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.